You're listening to the Oz TV podcast, only on the Oz Network. Welcome everyone to this very special episode of the Oz Network, coming to you today on a very special day for all Third Watch fans. Today is the 20th anniversary, 20 years since Third Watch premiered on our TV screens. The 23rd of September 1999 is that date when the show aired its first ever episode on NBC, and 6 seasons later it ended. But we're here to celebrate the legacy, the life, and everything else in between of that little show that was called Third Watch, and we're going to do that with a very exciting episode for you today, featuring 6 cast members and the co-creator of this show. We have on the line in just a few moments Ed Allen Bernero, the guy who helped pen this show with John Wells, and also on the line we will have Coby Bell, Skipp Sudduth, Anthony Ruivivar, Michael Beach, Yvonne, Jung, Ruivivar, as well as the last minute addition of Bill Walsh. And sadly, of course, we're also meant to have Jason Wiles, Amy Carlson, and Guy Norman B scheduled to be on this one, but unfortunately, they did have to pull out of this episode. But we are very much hopeful that we can get them all back on the show at some point in the not-too-distant future, and hopefully very soon, particularly with Jason and Amy as well making another appearance for herself, and Jason making his very first appearance on the show. So, unfortunately, while they're not on this episode, they hopefully will be coming on in the coming weeks. So, stay tuned for that. But right now, I'm not even going to bother talking anything more about this episode, because you don't want to hear my voice. Well, you want to hear my voice, but you want to hear my voice introducing all the people that I just mentioned. This is such a great chat, and I think that any single fan of Third Watch out there is going to get a lot out of this one. They're going to get a kick, they're going to have a lot of fun, bring back some great memories, and really showcase why this show is so amazing and so awesome. So without further ado, here is our exclusive Third Watch 20-year reunion episode here on the Oz Network. 20 years ago on this very day, Third Watch premiered on NBC, introducing us to the men and women of the 55th Precinct in New York and following the lives of the police, the paramedics, and the firefighters who served it. And across 132 episodes and 6 seasons, we watched out how all this played out. And today on the Oz Network, we're super excited to be able to bring together some of the cast and crew that made that show so special, to talk about everything that happened, some other things you don't know that happened, and everything else randomly that we can talk about on this Third Watch reunion special. I do have, let's start with perhaps the big gun, the guy who helped pen this show. He appeared on this show about a month or two ago, and we got him back on here because we liked him so much. Mr. Ed Allen Bernero. Ed, first of all, welcome back to the Oz Network. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, Ben. Thank you. It's always good to talk to you.
And also on the line, we have a couple of members. I think for the very first time, we're actually covering the police on this show. We had Manny Perez on quite a year or so ago, but I don't think we've ever talked to any of the other ones. So for the very first time, the members of 5-5 Charlie. Let's first of all speak to the man who played John Sully Sullivan on 124 episodes. I do, of course, speak of Mr. Skipp Sudduth. Skipp, welcome to the Oz Network.
Thank you, Ben. So glad to be here. Love seeing these faces, man.
And his partner in crime in the other seat there, starting the most episodes of Third Watch, 127 to be precise. Played the character of Tyrone Davis Jr., Mr. Coby Bell. Coby, welcome to the program.
I was in the most episodes of Third Watch?
Yes, we tallied them up. Look at that.
Fred,
Congratulations.
I can't believe that, man.
How did we let people have episodes off?
I didn't know that. Hey, no, thanks for having me, Ben. I'm really happy to be here, man.
And also,
Ben, just a second. It depends on what you mean by in the episode, right? Because there were some episodes Coby's body was in.
Yeah.
But
just
Coby
floating.
wasn't technically in the...
Floating in the background somewhere. Yeah. Also on the line, we have covering off across the street, the Firehouse, playing the role of Carlos Nieto across 123 episodes on the show, Mr. Anthony Ruivivar. Anthony, welcome to the Oz Network.
What's up, Ben? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing fantastic. I am sitting here speaking to 7 of my favourite people that I've grown up watching, so I'm very, very excited to be here today. So, yes, very exciting. And also on the line, too, sitting opposite you in that ambulance for 5 of the seasons there in Adam 553, played the role of Monty Doc Parker in 97 episodes. It's Mr. Michael Beach. Michael, welcome to the Oz Network.
Thank you. 97? I had no idea.
I'm loving these stats that I'm giving you guys. It's almost like you nearly made the century, but not quite. For the very first time, too, we're going to cover off the firefighter side of things in 57 episodes. He basically played himself. It's Bill Walsh. Bill, welcome to the Oz Network.
Hey, thank you, Ben. Thanks for having me. And thank you, Michael Beach, for keep calling me Bill Walsh every episode.
That's how you do it, player.
Also on the line too, she played Holly Levine for 31 episodes. She also played a random ADA in one episode. She got to hang out with Viola Davis, so that was pretty fun. Yvonne Jung, Ruivivar's on the line. Yvonne, welcome back to the Oz Network.
Thank you. Yeah, I gotta work with Viola. That was pretty fun.
Viola was on Third Watch?
Yeah.
Well,
It was a good show, Beach.
When was Viola?
Yeah, man, that was all my doing. It was all my doing, Beach.
What did she play?
You know, it's so funny. Over the years, I find out how many people have been on the show that I didn't know that, are, doing pretty well right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think about 3 future Academy Award winners, I think, went on to win Oscars. You also had Chadwick Boseman on there as well. So, I think it was his first TV gig. So, plenty of
Peter
people.
Dinklage.
Yeah, Peter Dinklage.
Maybe I should have been a guest star.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I think
Peter Dinklage was on the show?
Yeah.
Peter Dinklage was?
What did he do?
Really?
Kerry Washington when she was really young, too. She was like 16.
Wow.
What did he do?
I love how we're learning so much today. It's great.
The girl from Glee when she was a little kid.
Yeah, Lea Michele. Yep.
Holy
Crazy.
cow.
Yeah, plenty of people.
Jean-Claude
Wow.
Van Damme.
Arnold
Like 3 episodes.
Oh, and
Schwarzenegger.
what's the guy from Game of Thrones did a sort of behind-the-scene kind of tour thingy? What was his name?
Oh,
I
yeah,
should know.
Moma, Aquaman.
He was on.
Jason.
Yeah.
No, he did like
Jason
some kind of
did like a
behind-the-scenes
tour.
thing for entertainment or something.
Yeah.
For Entertainment Tonight, he did it behind the scenes, yeah.
So is that how Michael got a gig on Aquaman then? That's basically just through that connection? That's how that worked?
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, kind of.
They went back 20 years and said, hey, let's do it.
It all paid off.
I think the amazing thing that's coming across right now is just how close we all were.
And how close you all paid attention to the show.
About the series.
Hey, the
Beach was on Third Watch? How many?
Never heard of him. Don't know who that talked about.
Elizabeth Banks played Bosco's girlfriend in the first couple of episodes.
Oh my God.
Who?
Elizabeth Banks. She was Stick, the commander's daughter.
Oh my
Whoa.
God.
Elizabeth
Wow.
Banks. Yeah.
Jeez.
Denzel Washington was the cameraman. Little known fact.
That's how he broke in.
Remember when Meryl Streep did that episode?
Yeah. She was the dolly grip.
It was cut last minute.
I thought she was
What about Helen Mirren?
She was all wrapped from head to toe in
Helen Mirren
gauze.
was on the show.
Oh, Helen Mirren was in 2 episodes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So, guys,
I actually
20
had
years ago, as I said, it premiered on this
Shut
very
up,
day.
Ben.
Like,
Listen.
crazy to think that it's been 20 years. And I'd like to open this up to the forum. Actually, we'll start with you, Ed, because obviously you helped pen this show, gave all these guys some, some jobs for the 6 years that followed. Do you remember what the nerves or the feeling was on that very first night that, you switch on NBC and here is this show that you've put all this hard work in and it's finally premiering? Do you remember exactly what you were doing on the night it premiered?
I think we had like people over. I'm not totally sure, but it's so long ago now. I know that I wasn't nervous because we had seen. By the time these things come on the air, you've seen them so many times that I just really wanted to wait for it to end and see if people watched it. That's what I was mostly concerned with. That getting the numbers the next morning, that seeing it on the air is something that by the time you watch it, you've seen it 35 times. So I knew the episode was good. I just hoped people liked it.
Did anyone else remember what they were doing? Did anyone sort of have like a get together? The cast, anyone sort of come over and sort of watch it?
Didn't we have an all?
We all
screened
it together, right,
at the
Ed?
Firehouse. No, the Firehouse.
Yeah, we screened it together. Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
And all very much happy, I can imagine, watching it all come out.
I was at the gym, I think.
Just working out.
Probably not alone.
My mind was blown from day one. It was mind-blowingly cool from day one. That's what I remember.
Yeah, I second that.
Yeah.
Broadway? Skip, you were on Broadway, right? Broadway at that time.
I was on. We shot the pilot, but by the time we premiered, I was doing a play on Broadway during the entire time. 5 weeks we were shooting the pilot, but then by the time we premiered in September, I was just doing the show. Thank God. But yeah, so
yeah.
But
I remember watching the pilot.
Wasn't that like a classic? What was?
It was Iceman Cup.
Iceman.
Like
Right.
the
I was doing some play with some people. Yeah, I was a big time.
I was with an Iceman Cometh with Kevin Spacey, and very challenging. I remember I would never go back to my dressing room between scenes because I was afraid I'd fall asleep. I sat in a chair next to the stage manager because we were shooting all night every night. You know, they would pick me up after the play and take me out to Queens, and we'd shoot all night. So I was terrified of missing an entrance on Broadway, so I'd sit in the chair right next to the stage manager and get sent on stage.
Wow. Jeez.
I remember doing the subway. Remember the subway scene, Skip? And then you would get right out. You take off your uniform and you get right on the subway to go to Broadway.
Yeah, the wardrobe girl stood around me with a sheet on the subway platform, and I changed out of my uniform into my clothes. We had been shooting a scene in a subway car on this side of the platform, and I literally changed clothes and then stepped into a subway car headed into New York on the other side of the platform and went into town to do the play.
Wow.
Tony Danza was very, very jealous. Tony Danza was in the play with me, and he was very jealous that I was in the play and shooting a TV pilot at the same time. He was way jealous.
Hey, I'm just glad she would put the cheap.
Anthony, you were hanging out with Matt Perry when you got the pilot, and he was jealous too.
Yeah, Matt Perry. So first of all, I'm on a frisbee golf course with Matt Perry when they get the news that
you call that working out?
$1 million an episode. What?
You call that working out, frisbee golf?
Yes, that's LA working out. That's LA working out, frisbee golf. So I'm on a frisbee golf course with Matt Perry when he gets the word that, you know, they all banded together and they get $1 million an episode, right? Then later that night, we're all out. I get the news that I got third watch. And he's like hammered. I'm like, man, I'm so jealous of you. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? He's like, you get to work with John Wells and Ed Bernero on like a real show. I'm just a clown. I'm just a clown. I'm like, dude, you're getting $1 million an episode. But he was jealous. He was super jealous.
Wow.
Super jealous.
He might have been on pain meds.
Halfway through French Air, all the seasons he forgets, right?
Good shit, man. That Oxy's fantastic.
And Anthony, how do you end up playing disc golf with Matthew Perry? How does that even begin to happen?
Yeah. No, we're friends of friends. Like, we know each other. That's all.
Hang out in high circles, just hanging out with these A-listers. Okay, we understand that. Fair enough. That works.
Yvonne actually ruined his. He recently bought it was like within that week or something. Like we're at a party together, and he bought this this I don't know, extravagant shirt at some store, and Yvonne spilled a whole bunch of wine on it, and he was super upset about it. Remember that, baby?
Mm-hmm, I do.
Wow.
I do remember that.
Anyway,
That's hilarious.
sorry.
But Matt Perry is really mad at me.
Everyone's celebrating the 25th anniversary of Friends, and we're finding out these extra stories that I'm sure they're not telling it on these other reunions and everything like that. Bill, you obviously, being in the FDNY and kind of, joining the show, I guess a little bit later in terms of being more of a regular. But I mean, at what point in that first season were you brought in? Kind of, were you a consultant, and kind of how was that sort of all come about?
Now, episode 6 was my first episode, and basically it still is all very foreign to me. The first time the episode aired, I was praying that the guys in the firehouse, nobody in any firehouse in New York City watched it, because I knew my career as a real fireman was going to be very difficult after that. I went on. I'm an actor that never knew he was an actor. I went on one audition.
Wow.
I went on one audition, and I got the job. And thank you, Ed. I worked for so many episodes, and thank you, Michael, for reminding me that my name was Bill. Thank you. But, I came from a different world.
Because you originally you didn't play yourself early on, did you? You were given another name. It wasn't only until second season that you were finally referred to as Walsh.
When Kim Raver, my first time on camera, I was on camera with Kim Raver, and she kept asking me, who's missing, Jeff, Jimmy? And I was like, I know Jimmy's missing, but I don't know this guy, Jeff. I don't know who he is, but he must be missing too. So, we'll find him. Don't worry about it.
Right.
And then I realized she was talking about me. So, it was quite a change for me. Definitely a big change.
Wow. I love it. Stick around with you for a little bit
I'll just
longer
tell you,
after that.
I talked to Chris Chulak, at least a half a dozen times a year. The only person from Third Watch he ever asks about is Billy Walsh. He's like, you talking about Walsh? Is he okay?
Yeah,
Billy Walsh okay? Billy Walsh still alive? Is Bill Walsh okay? I'm like, yeah, Bill Walsh is cool. Yeah, he loves Billy Walsh.
Fantastic.
We all do.
Coby, for yourself, I mean, obviously this was such a big breakthrough for you as well. And as I said before, you ended up appearing in the most episodes. I mean, crazy to think that you kind of went from this break to all of a sudden being in 127 episodes. Could you have imagined from that day one that there you would have been 6 seasons later?
No, man. I mean, the whole experience for me, the whole Third Watch experience. I mean, I was so young, just out of college when I got the job. So it was, at this point, you get to a point in your career where you're kind of jaded and you kind of know how the sausage is made. But back then, it was all so magical and real seeming to me, So I really felt like we were living it. We were living that show while we were doing it.
And I know in the Knights of Camelot special on the Season 1 DVD, you mentioned how you had several young cops actually coming up to you and saying that you were the reason they became a police officer. I mean, that in itself must just be an absolute honour to have real-life NYPD people or cops just coming up and saying that you were the reason they got into that job.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, to have the opportunity to represent them on television and is definitely an honor, and I hope we all did them proud.
And the relationship that you had with Skipp, I want to find more out about your kind of little antics offset with your characters that you play. We'll talk about that soon. But do you have? I know in that same documentary it's mentioned that Skipp made fun of your feet the very first moment he met you. But I mean, kind of, what was your first take of meeting Skipp for the first time, reading lines with him, and kind of realizing that he's going to be your on-screen partner for all these seasons?
Yeah, I remember. Skipp, were you the last one hired?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. The very last one.
Yeah. And so we had the auditions.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had the auditions in the four seasons, I think. Yeah. And I just remember him walking in. He was wearing shorts. He had these like crazy, like shiny red basketball shoes on. He just walked in like he didn't, he didn't give a shit.
That I had been given by Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey gave everybody Oakley basketball shoes for the opening of Iceman Cometh. That's why I was wearing those shoes.
Wow.
Yeah, but he walked in. He just owned the room in such a way where I was like, dude, this guy's got it. this guy's got it. And we immediately just began kind of messing around, and our little world of inside jokes began right then, immediately. And it's going on to this day. It's to this very day. It's still going.
Wow.
I think the first thing, as Ben said, I looked at his feet. Coby wears what size? 17, Coby?
16 wide.
16 wide. And I saw his feet. And the first thing I said was, how did you get those things on the elevator to get up here?
Which was written into an episode, of course. You kind of had that written into an episode later on when you, I guess, stepped in Dead Guy and you had to go buy yourself some shoes later on.
That's right. That's right.
I forgot about that.
Wow.
Hey, Skipper, didn't you come in for Fred first?
Yeah. No, the first thing I read before was the captain's, was Stick.
Oh, that's right. And after you left, it was like, hey, what about him for Sully?
Yeah. Well, first you guys were considering me for the paramedic who got shot in the pilot.
Oh, Mike Rispoli.
Rispoli's
Jerry.
part.
Wow.
Yeah,
Jerry.
that's what they told me anyway. And then John had me back in the next day to read for Sully. And I thought it was total BS. I mean, I thought I was being jerked around because the word on the street was that you guys were out to Ray Liotta to play Sully. And, I had been used to get big actors off the fence before. So I was loose because I was convinced, they weren't really going to hire me to do this part that was just way beyond, anything I could ever imagine. So I was super loose, and that's why I got cast.
One positive from missing out on being Jerry, though, is you didn't have to grab Anthony's ass in the pilot episode. So, that's a slight positive there.
Dude, Ben knows his stuff.
Yeah, kind of obsessed. What can I say?
I don't even know what he's talking about.
Like, what's wrong?
Come on,
Jerry. You remember Jerry?
Hey, Beach, give it to us. Keep the mask on, Jerry. Keep the mask on.
I've got some requests with some of these lines. Trust me, don't worry. I'm going to really test you out in this one. Kind of when it comes down to it. I mean, Skipp, too, with yourself. I mean, eventually, many people called Sully the narrator of the show. I mean, you ultimately got the final 5 minutes of the finale, kind of, telling everybody where it goes. Did you see yourself as kind of like the narrator of the show?
No. The dude that Sully was born from is right there, is Ed Bernero. Because it all happened so fast. I was sitting over behind the camera before every shot, asking Eddie what to do, and getting my mannerisms but Sully's whole sort of demeanor as this sort of gruff dude. Not that Ed acted like that, but he was just like, that's cops are just like all business. They're not. So Sully was just like no drama. He was like all business, and I was just sort of absorbing it from Ed Bernero. He told me how to hold which end of the gun was the part you were supposed to point at the bad people, how to hit people with sticks, a lot of really important stuff. But in all seriousness, because I literally got cast on Saturday night, and we were on the set shooting at 7 a.m. on Monday morning. So I was completely reliant on Ed, and he was awesome at helping me find Sully, because I literally found it. Like Coby said, we were living it. We were literally living it, and that's what made it so cool. I mean, Coby and I were just there was Coby and Skipp, and then Sully and Davis were just, there was no distance to Sully and Davis. We were just together, and it was like figuring it out,
Ed, did you kind of write Sully as almost like a narrator of the series, at least by the end of the show, given why he got those sort of final moments of telling where everyone ended up?
No, I never really thought of it that way. All of the cops were me at different stages in my career. They were out, like Davis's first day was my first day, where Skipp throws his notebook out. So every one of them was me at different stages of my career, except for Bosco. I was never really running from job to job, wanting to shoot at people. But Yokas very much was me, because Yokas had a family and kids, and I had a wife and kids, and so they were all me at different stages in my career. I never thought of Sully as that. That's interesting, though. in some ways, he was kind of the eyes of the show.
I need to find out a little bit more about Big Hans and Mocha Hans, Skipp and Coby. How does this come about? Tell our listeners a little bit about this little off-camera pairing you guys had.
Skipper? What do you want me to say of that, Ben, of New Zealand? Everything good down there? Are you goosing a jumping kangaroo in your living room for a change? Do you eat those things or not, or just keep them as pets in your houses?
Calling from only halfway around the world. Sure.
Calling only from the other side of Earth.
Sure. See, Ed, what happened to these? Why didn't these guys have a cameo all of a sudden in Third Watch? We would have watched this.
I tried to get them interested in doing a movie, in doing a Hans and Mocha Hans movie.
And we still want to do that, Ed.
It'd be awesome.
There you go.
We're ready.
The cooking maybe the baking contest.
Coby and I gave the whole cast and crew sweatshirts that had this emblem on them. This is how close Third Watch and Hans and Mocha were. Sure was the word we all said. Sure, time to go. It wasn't rolling, lights, action. We said rolling, lights, sure. And then the crew of Third Watch were 100% bastards. Every time Coby and I walked the set, we would be like, "What's up, bastards? Come on, let's shoot some shit. Let's do it. Let's shoot the show. Let's shoot it. Let's go. Let's mark it. Let's make the scene. Let's shoot that shit. Make sure it's
check that gate.
Check that motherfucker. Check that gate. Sure. Every day.
Man.
It was the engine that kept it rolling when Coby and I were there.
Did this translate across to the firehouse? Like Bill, Anthony, Michael, Yvonne, did you kind of get some of this going on that side of the fence?
They had their stories.
Anthony was pee-pee. You were pee-pee.
Oh, yeah,
my character's pee-pee.
Yes.
I think Anthony borrowed my song or something, or like short shorts for the. Did you shoot something?
You have those pictures.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Ben, we would do these little like improv nights. And yeah. So it was Hans and Mocha, and then Anthony was pee-pee, and he would come out and do his little pee-pee dance.
Oh, if there's photos and footage of this, this needs to be shared.
Super effeminate Latino, like in a cowboy hat and it's like hot.
He was
in my underwear.
choreographer.
Yeah, I was like literally raiding Yvonne's lingerie closet. I'm like, hey, can I wear this? She's like, what?
And meanwhile, Bill, you're trying to be, this serious actor being a firefighter, and you're going, what are these actors doing? This isn't how it works in a firehouse.
Yeah. Oh man, I remember at some point, Brooke Kennedy came up to me and Skipp and was like, "You guys, it's really too much. It's too much with the Hans and Mocha. We really need you guys to kind of dial it back." And we were like, no, there's no way that can happen. It just can't happen, and it's not going to happen.
Why?
Yeah, it was just it would have been Third Watch if we hadn't had Hans and Mocha.
Fantastic. Anthony, obviously Carlos had a huge growth from the very first episode across to the end, from sort of being very uncaring, kind of, the paramedic that ultimately doesn't really care enough about people, and by the end, obviously marrying, having a family, all that sort of stuff. What did you find more fun to play, Dick Carlos or loving, caring Carlos?
Dick Carlos.
I like that.
More fun. Yeah, way more fun. Way more fun. But it was all like, I think that it's, Carlos is always described to me as like a character going through the looking glass, right? Like he's a kid and he turns into a man during the series, right? So I kept wanting to make him the man. Like I always wanted to be like, oh look, like don't make me be the dick. Don't make me be the fop.
I was wondering if you were going to say it.
Yes, I said it. So anyway,
he said, I don't mind all that stuff, just don't make me the fop. And I'm like, okay, no problem. What's a fop? I'm a cop from Chicago. What the hell do I know what a fop is?
Oh my God. A fop is the guy in the Moliere play with the biggest handkerchief.
Got it.
Right.
I mean, I don't know.
So,
Who's Moliere?
It actually worked out.
So who's Moliere?
It actually worked out perfectly because I think that, like, Carlos, more than any other character, I think, so fuck all you guys, but I think Carlos had like the biggest arc. I think he had a huge arc. Like he went from one place to another place, which was a big arc. And I think I really appreciate Ed and everyone involved. Like to they were able to like make that journey because it's not a very typical journey like you see really on TV. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's a good point.
So
Sully changed all.
Yeah, for sure. So Carlos started one way and completely ended up in another direction. And I think that was like over not just a season, not just, it was like over a whole huge arc. So it was great. And it's great to play. It's great to play every aspect of Carlos. He's a fun character. Come on.
Well, I think I've always said my second favourite episode definitely was the Self-Importance of Being Carlos. That just is an absolutely fantastic episode, and just everything across that just looks so much fun. And even also like the relationship, I think, kind of Carlos and Davis both obviously were on their first day of the job in the very first episode, and had all that learning that we kind of use as the audience to kind of see that learning across the way as we're learning about these professions as well. But you two then being flatmates, kind of what that led to, obviously things like you getting ready, singing the Pina Colada song, Anthony, you had your bird, thinking Davis was gay, like kind of having all this sort of fun,
I remember
super fun.
That's awesome.
So much fun.
Eric Bogosian.
So much fun.
Eric Bogosian was the counselor on that one.
Oh yeah, Eric Bogosian. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
How was Bird? Was it just called Bird because that was the sake of what you called Bird on set, or was that bird actually called Bird?
I don't remember the name of the bird. What was the name of the bird?
I think it was literally just called Bird. I think you didn't have a name, so somebody asked you. I think it was Amy, character Taylor, said, "What's the bird called?" And you're just like, Bird.
Oh my God.
That's Carlos.
Yeah, because I think that's based off of like Carlos's kind of Carlos's inability to he's like Asperger's, right? His inability to kind of like
to care about the bird. Yeah,
exactly. So to care about it would be just give it to like a nice name, but it's bird. It's a bird. It's a bird.
It's Bird.
Yeah. So.
Yep, that works.
Man, I don't know about the bird, but for the first time in 20 years, I'm mega bummed that I didn't get cast as Carlos. I mean, because Sully's first word was crap, and my last word was crap. I had no arc. It was like driving on one of those desert highways for 6 years, just straight. Just
saying crap.
Straight, just saying crap and being pissed off all the time at everything.
Yeah.
And taking
come on, hey, come on, don't be so hard on yourself. You married a Russian whore.
That was an art.
You got
the Tatiana art.
Do stuff.
No, Ed gave me the gift of a lifetime. God rest his soul. Roy Scheider, I will always be the guy who got to kill the guy who killed the shark in Jaws.
So you ultimately are the ultimate shark killer then, Skipp, because you killed the ultimate shark killer yourself. So
killed the guy who's also a cop. I got to kill the cop who killed the shark in Jaws. And I'll put that to my
I got to kill Method Man in that same episode.
That's right. That's right.
Everyone's killing everyone.
Hey, Skipp, did I ever tell you the story about casting him?
He didn't kill anyone.
No.
About I called him and talked to him about the character, And he said, that sounds interesting. Let me call you back. So like 15 minutes later, he called me back doing the voice. And the whole time I wanted to just go, does this mean yes? Like, I don't know what's going on here. Are you like practicing or but I'm like, finally, I'm like, so you'll do it? He goes, of course.
He was awesome.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm loving these connections about killing these famous people. Michael, you got to, I guess, train Eve as a paramedic. So, I mean, you all got these connections to some super famous people. Do you remember sort of training up Eve as a paramedic for that one episode?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do. I remember that. Yeah, Eve. I was like, yeah. It's so funny is that, so many times that fans hit you and they they know the names of the episodes and the characters' names and stuff, and I never knew that even when we were shooting it. But yeah.
Jay, who am I?
Yeah, but I love the idea of all these actors and all these really like top-notch people that have done this show, that have been on the show. It's just crazy when you go down the list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is.
Oh my
Each
God.
got to kill Starsky too.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he lived, didn't he?
Oh,
Sort
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Baby, you have a good story about Starsky?
No.
No?
That's for another episode.
Wow.
I got to lay on top of Anne Margaret.
Yeah.
What?
God, dang, Margaret.
Wow.
Jeez.
Actually,
Anne Margaret.
Starsky went to, there was a point, I think, in the firehouse. It was Paul Michael Glaser, me, Anthony, and Kim Raver, and we were the only ones in some scene, and we all graduated from BU. We all went to school. Well, we didn't go to school at the same time as Paul, but yeah.
Yeah.
We were there.
Is that really interesting?
Okay.
Really?
All right. Why don't you just
BU? Really? BU?
All right.
All right.
Juilliard.
Michael Beach went to
Okay, Juilliard. All right, Juilliard.
Hey, you don't see me. You don't see me throwing my San Jose State weight around here right now. Come on, let's take it easy.
Exactly.
I didn't graduate from high school.
Michael, what's the mascot of the Juilliard School sports teams?
Juilliard sports teams?
The Juilliard sports team.
We
What's
had
the
a
mascot?
team.
Is it the
We had a
dancers?
chess team.
A chess team? Was it
Yeah,
like
we
the
had a
Pirates?
chess team.
The
That
Juilliard
was
Pirates?
it when it comes to sports.
Okay, got it.
Michael.
I'm sorry, my
you
kid's
remember
interrupting.
Michael,
Let's
do you
ask
remember the episode?
how
was,
amazing was
season
it to
finale?
work with Anthony?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
How great
Let's
was it
ask
for
Beach,
Mike?
how amazing was it to work with me?
Who's just talking? I'm sorry.
Let's ask Beach how amazing it was to work with Anthony.
That
That's
guy
his
was
partner.
a pain in the ass. Well, it's funny because we are very different the way we work. I mean, Anthony's much more, I think, much more methodical about things, and he's like an acting.
More bad at acting.
I don't know. I guess I kind of just, I don't know. I don't know how I work. I have no idea, but we are different, aren't we?
Yo, Michael's
I
having
think-
an Eric, dude.
No, but he's super prepared all the time, and
Really?
not so much. Yeah.
But it was a great dynamic between Doc and Carlos as well. We talk about the development of Carlos across those seasons, but I think what made Doc and Carlos very interesting is that every single time it looked as though the pair was kind of getting better together in terms of their working relationship, there was always that animosity that would always, be below the surface. And then we got that fantastic scene in the finale where kind of you guys ultimately show just how much you meant to each other. I mean, for you two working together, I mean, that just must have made it fun that there was always that sort of simmering tension below the surface between the two of you.
Yeah, look, that scene is probably like I'll remember that always because you've got a situation where the series is ending. We know that, and then you bring back Beach, and then I'm in the scene with him. It's like so loaded. It's so just physically loaded that there's no way that it can't be like just real. It's just real. It's not even. But you don't even have to work at it. It's just real.
That was the first day that it felt like the show was ending, Tony.
The what?
That was the first day it felt like it was ending.
Yeah.
When we shot that scene was the first day for me, because I directed the last one, and that was the first day that it felt like the show was ending.
Yeah,
you guys are talking about the scene at the hospital with the glass blocks and stuff. That big room. I've got great photographs of that day. I don't know if anybody's ever seen them. I have to send them out to you guys. I took a bunch of great
amazing. He took amazing photos of that day, and they're like we have these like. It's great. It's amazing. Just it's super cool.
I had a wide luck camera, like Jeff Bridges' camera. I had wide luck, so I took all these wide frame. It really showed the whole atmosphere. It showed Ed and the crew and the scene that was being shot, and Johnny Gallagher, God rest his soul. They were running things.
Oh my God, yeah, John Gallagher.
Yeah, John Gallagher, man.
I'd love to ask a quick question, maybe for Ed here, sort of directing, writing, and I don't know if Michael, you even remember this bit. We'll find out. But in that final scene, when you're talking about Doc's wife, you refer to Doc's wife as Linda, yet her name was Deborah for the first 3 or 4 seasons. Was there a...
I have to tell you, I every time I ever tried to do like a Third Watch trivia thing, I failed. I don't remember anybody's brothers' names or I'm terrible with that. I'm sure I was wrong. I'm terrible with that.
I didn't know Doc had...
We brought that up a few times, Ed.
He probably had 6 or 7 wives.
Yeah.
But Doc, remember, Doc was in a crazy house, so he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
But I think it was actually Carlos who said the name, so maybe Carlos was the one going crazy. Anthony, it was your fault then, clearly.
That's what I meant.
All a dream. Actually, all a dream.
He should have been married to Morales anyway, though.
Yes, we all know that.
I wish.
Yes.
Yeah. What a screw up that was.
I really would have been married Morales. That's what it was.
No one's gonna want her.
Morales was my dream.
I was just gonna say about that scene that we were talking about earlier. For me, it was very cool because I'd been off the show for, I guess about a year and a half. And to come back and just to, it's like Anthony said, we just fell right into the scene. It was like nothing. It was like butter, it was so easy and simple and cool and but loaded, like you said, because not just the characters' lives, but our lives together had been so, so deep and so, and to this day, I mean, him and his family are, they're very, very close to me. They're like family. And so it was, I love that scene for that reason, because it just involves so much of our personal lives and the lives of those two characters.
And one thing that I think we discovered in recapping all the episodes is, I think with Doc, it really is just this slow downward path to just everything tragic seems to happen to Doc from the very first episode right through to ultimately when you end up in the crazy house. Kind of just, you lose everything Doc does. I mean, out of all the characters you've played over the years, Michael, I mean, was that one of the most challenging just because you were playing this guy who just gradually was losing everything until ultimately kind of the worst thing can actually happen to him?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like I shouldn't say this, but the one thing that when Anthony says he had this great arc as Carlos, that's one thing I didn't feel I had on that show. I felt like I had to be, all the writing had to be that Doc was good. Everything was good. He was always good. And I know when we first started, there was that year was, some big thing about minorities on TV and how, they needed to be more seen in a better light, a more positive light. And I felt like a lot of that shit got put on to me. So I didn't feel like I had the moral dilemmas that I wanted to have, and so I thought a lot of the things that were happening to Doc were, were so much outside stuff and not enough inside which is why I actually loved how I left the show, although a lot of the fans hated it. I loved it because, he was conflicted. He was fucked up. He didn't know what was going on. He wasn't in control. He didn't, it wasn't about always doing the right thing. And that's why I really loved the last few episodes. And I started getting excited again about Doc when it was time for me to leave the show. And, and that's just kind of stuff I gravitate towards. I think many actors do, but I don't know if that answered your question. I don't remember your question. I just started talking.
I don't remember it either, Michael. It's fine. I never remember what I asked half the time on the show.
He's old.
Yeah, we're all old. Well, I won't say my age again.
But you know what though? I will just say this too though. It is in terms of the show. Just personally, I've kept the most personal relationships from Third Watch than I have from any other job I've done in my life.
Fantastic.
And close relationships, not tertiary, really
100%.
Yeah, definitely.
That definitely makes, fans very happy, because I know, for one, that you kind of, a show like this ends, and whether you're a fan and you kind of, it forms a part of your life, you always want to hope that everyone outside is still hanging out, friends, all this sort of stuff. So I know that from myself personally and everyone who, enjoyed this show, that's obviously great news for everyone to hear. Is it something that you all catch up on? Like, you try, and is it just texts, phone calls? Are you guys trying to catch up when you're all in the same city, things like that?
Yeah,
well,
it's
I just walked over to Peach's house. And I'm at Peach's house. Brought Peaches over. Peach drove past our son on his 17th birthday, first day of senior year. Actually, Peach was the first one to see him in the hospital, other than me and Anthony, and then drove past him just after he totaled the car. So
wow.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, we most of us see each other just randomly, casually.
Yeah, and specifically, purposefully.
And a few of you have obviously gotten to work together still on other shows as well. I think, Yvonne, when we had you on, you talked about being in an episode of Criminal Minds with Eddie, I think, from memory, and Coby and Anthony, you were both in Burn Notice at the same time as well. So, you've all kind of worked together on multiple different shows, so that must make it a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, and Beach and I got to do a bunch of episodes of The Game as well, and that was so much fun. So much fun.
That was a lot of fun, yeah.
Oh, and then Anthony worked on that other show that you did too, Coby, right? And
Burn Notice, yeah.
We did a pilot. Anthony and I did a pilot for Charles.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, Charles Murray.
And then we did a project together.
That's right. And
yeah.
We also did Diggs Booty.
Diggs Booty, yeah. We did a blaxploitation satire. Anthony and
wow.
And Coby.
And Coby, yes, and Coby.
Bill, do you get a chance to sort of catch up with a lot of them? I mean, being sort of on the East Coast there, do you get to see many of the guys?
I just spoke to Anthony and Yvonne about a month or so ago. But what I wanted to say is that I think that all of us as a show went through something very personal, and together at the same time that would pretty much bond anybody. With 9/11. I hate to bring it up, but all these guys were there, and it's that pretty much that's gonna like build something between people for a lifetime.
Yeah,
definitely. Actually, on September,
like when you said like everybody kind of like stayed together, it's like I think just going through something like that together, and we all did. That kind of like bonded us for life.
No question about
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah, somebody was just saying on September 11th or the day after was talking to me. They're in LA now, but they were downtown teaching at I think the closest elementary school to the towers, and she was saying that out of all the programming she saw, everything she saw, the most well done television was those 2 episodes, the documentary kind of episodes Third Watch did after it.
Wow.
We talked a lot about that during those recaps, sort of, going into detail a little bit about sort of shows covering it and that. And yeah, I think kind of even, 18 years later watching those episodes, I mean, it is very hard to watch still all these years later, but I think it was handled very well in the best way you really could at that time. It's sort of, and Third Watch at the end of the day too was a show which I guess it was pretty impossible to avoid it. You couldn't, as much as you probably in a way wanted to, you couldn't really just. And I think Ed, you and I talked a little bit about that recently, about sort of the challenges involved in doing those episodes.
Right. It was hard. I mean, there was a time when I didn't really want to do the show anymore. In the time just after it was actually Billy. It was actually the fire department that got us to do it again. Because
really?
I met a couple of guys and they said, you got to do the show. It's the only show about firemen.
Right.
So I was like, all right. So yeah, but I was afraid to do it again. It just sort of like, I didn't want to benefit from it at all.
Right.
I had a guy from NBC call me on that day and say, there's only 2 shows that are going to benefit from this. One is JAG and the other is Third Watch. And I'm like, well, then I quit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the same message from first responders, because we were all working in one way or another to support everybody at Ground Zero. We were visiting precinct houses and firehouses. I can't remember who else was there, but some of us were actually there the night of, working food trucks and handing out masks and all that kind of stuff right across the street from the pile. And we were right in the midst of it. It was family. That's how we were with the FDNY and NYPD and the paramedics. It was all family from day one. And so, the way we all took it as a show, is it happened to all of us. I mean, and there were astonishing things like in that story, where like the fact that Mike Keenan, who was our NYPD tech advisor, he was the guy. Am I right about this, Coby? He's the guy who put you and Avis on the boat to leave Battery Park City and go across to Jersey City. So they're literally being evacuated from their apartment in Battery Park City, right across the street from where the towers have come down, and they go to the shore, and the dude that's there putting them on a boat is Mike Keenan, who's the EMS, special services guy from the show. I mean, it was unbelievable, and that was just how it was. We were all knit together, and that remained true for all of us to this day. It's not only people from the show, actors, producers, writers, but also Billy Walsh. Cops, firefighters, paramedics, both on the job and retired, that are among my best friends, to this day. It's just family. I mean, it was family.
It's great to hear that you all sort of had that bond kind of, through this thick and thin and everything that kind of come with it. Yvonne, a question for you. My fiance and I just actually finished rewatching Third Watch. I'm not going to tell you how many times I've rewatched it because you'll think I'm a loser. But first time she's ever seen it, she loved it. And Holly was one of her favourite characters. I mean, do you kind of wish that you had that opportunity to come in a bit earlier and kind of really flesh out a little bit more of Holly? And I also just going to say this again, should have been a major character. It shouldn't have just been a guest star, but I'm just saying that again.
Yeah, I of course. I mean, it was a highlight of my life, and I knew it at the time. I remember getting up in the morning to go to work and going, saying to myself, I cannot believe this is my life. I'm so lucky. So lucky. I loved, I would have liked to explore more. I really loved that Ed allowed me to be comedic and silly and odd and really went with it, and
totally different from how you
not like me in real life at all.
Miss Somber. Yeah, where did I get the idea to let you be comedic?
I don't know. Was I not supposed to be comedic?
No, I'm just saying, talk to you for half an hour.
Well, I was going to ask actually, Yvonne, if you or Anthony are more like, are you more like Holly, or is Anthony more like Carlos? Like when you sort of just, raising kids and living a life like that.
Definitely adolescent. No, I think it's true for most actors and writers. There's a ton of elements that are similar, but either exaggerated or every facet of, everything you do is you and just maybe manipulated and placed in a different way. So I don't know. I guess Anthony's probably more mature than Carlos, and I'm definitely almost as weird as Holly was. But I don't believe in crystals and any of that.
I was going to say, you don't hand out crystals to your children if they hurt themselves.
No,
like, hold this.
I'm not a crystal not at all.
But Holly was one of the few characters that was written after I knew the actor. I mean, everyone else on the show, the characters were written before you guys played them. So Holly was one of the few that I actually knew who was going to play the character before we wrote her.
Wow.
There you go.
So that's how I really am, I guess. That is how I really am.
At least how I see you.
Oh, that's great.
I guess, and then I had to do what Ed wrote for me. So then Anthony and I did end up having 3 children, just like in the final episode, because Ed said so.
Thank you.
Sort of all played out like in real life. That's great. I've got just some quick fire ones. We'll get to some listener questions because we've got some great listener questions in, but I just want to kind of throw this out there and maybe get each of you to give your take on it. And I might start, Ed, with you, just in terms of favorite episode maybe that you wrote, least favorite episode. I don't know if you have a least favorite episode. I don't want to automatically.
The least favorite episode I wrote?
Yeah. I mean, do you kind of have out of the ones that you did write, that what was your favorite and least favorite?
It's fun. I mean, they're all kind of like my kids. I mean, so I kind of love every one of them for different reasons. I know that After Hours I really enjoyed. The one where the kids died in an accident. It was all sort of the night after it happened. And then the 100th episode where we did it like a play, where there was no cuts. Every act they're probably my favorite ones to have been part of. But I love every one of them.
Skip, did you have a favorite that you were sort of involved in?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I there's so many that come. It's mostly, you experience it. I experienced it anyway as scenes, as opposed to episode arcs. And the scenes that come into my mind are the scene that we shot. I think this was the first season where Coby had accidentally shot the guy. Davis had accidentally shot the guy. Who was taking his trash out, and we were, standing out. I remember standing out in this sleet storm at 1:00 in the morning, talking to Davis and basically saying, you have to find a way forward and you have to find a way to leave this. I remember that. I remember the scene in the cafe with Doc where we. I asked him, "Do you ever think of quitting?" And he said every day, or maybe it was the other way around. I can't remember. But remember that, Michael? That scene where we were.
I think I said it to you, and you said every day. I remember that.
Right.
Which is weird,
Yeah, exactly.
I like
remember that.
Scene, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of, this series is like that in my memory and in my head. I don't really remember it as episodes so much as moments, you know.
And just a side note, that the woman that played the wife of the guy
Oh my God, yeah.
accidentally shot. So when I go to try to visit the guy in the hospital, and his wife is there. That actress slapped the shit out of me. Like, that was not a fake slap. She slapped me. I still feel it.
Oh, I remember watching back. Anthony and I had like our first kissing scene, and so we made out. And then I remember watching it on when it aired, and all I could hear was us going. We really used our tongues, and I was like, "What? That sounds so gross! Oh my god!"
But Eddie,
I
that
remember
episode Eddie talked about
scene
with
like
kids
that
dying
with
in a car crash.
You
That
were
was
making out with him?
Oh, that wasn't on the show. Sorry. Never mind. Go ahead.
oh yeah. It was cool, man. It was so great.
I was going to say, you all of you got these sort of kissing and love scenes. Bill, you didn't get any. Like, what's going on there? Like, they don't trust the real life firefighters to get some on the side or something like that?
I think he kissed DK in one episode.
All right.
Whoa! DK.
It was only one, and I didn't like it.
Bill, obviously, it's a bit different with your character because kind of, not as extensive as obviously everyone else can line, but did you kind of have any scenes or that you remember that you were kind of, most fond of on your time on the show?
I just have moments where I got to work with these real actors, and I learned things every moment. Like, working with Michael and Anthony and Yvonne and Eddie. It was all just pretty much for me because that was my acting class. That was, I got to work with these guys that really did it, and it just opened my eyes to a whole new world. So every time I got the opportunity to sit or just interact with these guys, all these great people, I was just ecstatic about it. And like I said, it was a new thing for me. It was just so new. Every time it was new. So, like Michael, I did a scene in the ending episode of season 2 where Eddie shot, and it's we're both in the street, and Michael's talking to the guy another fireman that was shot. This really, really handsome guy, like 6'2", black hair, and he's laying on the ground. And he went to Juilliard, and the guy on the ground is saying that he went to Columbia, and they're both like theater majors. And I'm kneeling over him, and every time they yell cut, the makeup lady comes over and pours another gallon of blood on this guy. And I just looking at him saying, "Dude, I don't think you're gonna make it to the next episode. I'll see you working next year. But there's way too much blood here." And he's like, No, I think I'm going to get it. I said, no, it's not going to happen. So I just have great moments with these people all the time. And I thank you, Ed, and I thank everybody that, put up with me because I really had no idea what I was doing.
Oh, my God.
You were great, though, Billy.
From my perspective, it was always, I thought it was always cool that we had real firefighters in the house with us. And for me, it just gave us an authenticity.
Yeah, rooted it.
Because everybody, not pretty much everybody in the house was a real firefighter,
Right.
Or paramedic, and it was just so awesome that we could just turn to one of you guys and go, "Hey, blah 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 blah," and you could just go, "Yeah, blah blah blah," or "No, da da da," and it was and we knew that we had that
authenticity,
authenticity right there with us,
right?
And it just felt so cool being in the firehouse. So as cool as you thought it was, I know from my perspective, I always thought it was cool that we got to, to hang out with you guys That was some of the great times for me. I love that, man. That was awesome.
Plus, we saved a fortune on costumes.
Saved a fortune on costumes.
Yeah.
That's a secret. That's why there were so many sort of consulting in there. Coby, did you have a favorite episode at all?
What was the one? Was it 1013? Was that the one where the guy was going around on the bike shooting cops?
Oh yeah.
That might have been Officer Involved.
Officer
Yeah,
Involved.
maybe 1013.
Officer Involved was the one that Skipp was just talking about.
Oh, with the shooting the neighbor? That was
Yeah.
Officer Involved, then it was 1013, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. The memories that pop into my head are the ones where there's some guy just riding through the city shooting cops, and then we had the big shootout in the junkyard. And then I don't know if that was the same episode as the big cop funeral that we did.
It was, yep.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. That was Chulak that directed that. And that one just sticks with me. Just really powerful.
We at the end of each season, sort of when we did the recaps, we mentioned the top 5 moments of the season, and that definitely made the top 5 of season 2, because there was just the scene where you look at the child of the cop who's been killed, and you sort of he salutes you, and you salute him back, and you've got tears rolling down your face, and then Skipp, you put your hand on his shoulder, just like such a powerful moment,
Unbelievable. It was freezing ass cold in that cemetery. It was freezing ass cold. You remember that, Coby?
Yeah. It was freezing ass cold for a lot of the show.
For a lot of it.
Oh yeah, that's cold.
Yeah, it was.
Anthony, do you have a favorite?
Anthony?
Anthony?
Did we lose Anthony?
Maybe.
He ran away. We'll come back to Anthony.
Lost him a long time ago. We didn't even know.
In Minnesota.
Michael, and you mentioned the cold, and he's just getting, realizing how cold it is there. Michael and Yvonne, do you guys have a favorite?
I don't know. It's hard for me. But I don't know. For me, right off the bat, oddly, I think I love the pilot. The pilot was awesome. And then I think I love my last episode before the season ender. I love that scene that Skipp and I had up in the firehouse.
Yeah.
And they brought back the effects of 9/11.
Yeah.
So I agree with Skipp. It's kind of like scenes and moments that stand out. In the pilot, that scene where Anthony is trying to save the guy, and I'm just looking at him, and I'm just like, he's gone. It's gone. It's over. And he just keeps trying to. Yeah, those moments pop up to me.
Yeah, listening to Michael just then, I remember the snow. Remember it was snowing that night that Michael's talking about.
Yeah.
We were shooting the scene in the firehouse.
And it was snow, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
It just happened to start snowing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like real snow, as if we had planned it. It was so perfectly planned. Yeah, that was great. Yeah.
I loved doing the episode with Susan Day when we were doing when we had to go to a therapist for PTSD. They were kind of like monologues, or not monologues.
Oh yeah.
And I loved doing the episode where Carlos comes to my apartment. But you know what is amazing is when I haven't seen a lot of it, but it really is amazing how much depth and complexity all the characters had, and how real it feels watching it back now, especially as sort of writing has changed, or what you see on TV.
Boy,
they don't make them like they're watching anymore. They really don't. I mean, rarely, very rarely.
NBC has 5 shows that are all part Third Watch.
Exactly.
Chicago, everything, whatever they are this week.
We did it all in one show.
You don't need 3 different spin-offs of all these different things, left, right, and centre. And, of course, Ryan Murphy has done his own version, hasn't he, with 911, basically. It's just Ryan Murphy's take on Third Watch in Los Angeles.
Because when you want to know what cops and paramedics feel like, it's Ryan Murphy's your guy.
Yeah.
Wait, Ed, why don't they bring back all the shows? You should bring back Third Watch.
I'm just trying to get NBC to pay me for all the shows they've got on now.
I think we should.
I'd love to bring back Third Watch. I really would. I would love to do that. This is by far, and I've been doing this like 25 years now. By far, the thing that I miss the most is Third Watch. By far.
Well, hey Eddie, gonna call. I'll call you, man.
Cool.
I'll give you a call about that. Okay? 'Cause I think we should bring it back too. It should be called Bernero Notice. Burn.
Do you have my phone number?
Yeah, I got.
How do you get my phone number, Skip?
Right here. Bernero Notice.
Bernero. That's a good one.
I'm down. I'm down for it.
Jeez, we're getting everyone on board right now. Come on, Bill, Anthony, Coby, you got to all commit here. Michael, you're a bit busier now, but you got killed off in Aquaman. You don't need to be there for the sequel, so it's all good.
Michael's already got a great version of Doc Preloaded. He's like a crazy leader of a motorcycle gang. Doc.
That's right. An old one.
Hey, man, the best motorcycle gang dudes are old. I live in upstate New York. Believe me, they're all gray.
Yeah, I know a lot of them, bro. I know a lot of them.
Got some listener questions here, and thanks to anyone who sent these in. We got a lot, so just picking a few of some good ones out here. One of our long-term listeners, Barb Brandon, sent in a few, and one here for you, Skip. Curious if Sully's crap catchphrase was in the script, or did it originate in some other way?
No, it was from Ed. As I remember it, it was Ed's word, and it became Sully's. Right?
It's actually something I used to say all the time, especially when I was on the street. We turn the corner and I go, crap.
Crap. It was like a great word that you never heard, come out of any television character's mouth, and it was like Sully's signature word because it was Ed's signature word.
Fantastic. She also asked one for Anthony and Yvonne. Did Carlos and Holly name their child Kim?
Did we name our child Kim?
Yeah.
No, but we did name a child Levi. So we have a daughter named Levi.
That works.
But
okay.
not Kim, after Kim Raver.
It could have been the actress or the character, either. I think kind of Anthony in Kim's last scene there you had with Carlos mentioning, any chance you can name your baby Carlos, and absolutely not. It's kind of works out well. For Bronia, this one's for you, Ed. What was the decision behind the theme song, Keep Hope Alive? Was this always the choice?
Actually, I think it was John that found that song. When I was pretty new when the show started, so I wasn't in any of the music episode discussions. I think there was a short time when Welcome to the Jungle was potentially the theme song, but then I can't remember exactly where the dance song came from, the electronic song that they used, Keep Hope Alive. I can't remember exactly where it came from, but as soon as I heard it, I was like, yeah, that's the. There's a great moment in that teaser too when there's like a whistle sound. It's like it goes, whoop, and it's always right on Coby. Every time there's this kind of sound that's right on Coby that I love that part of the teaser.
Ben, I have a question for you.
Uh-oh.
Now, you were in New Zealand and you were 12 years old 20 years ago?
Well, I moved to New Zealand about 12 months ago, so I was in Australia when I was 12 years old. So, yes, way back in 1999, that's where I was.
Okay, but is that when you first saw the show? Was the show being released in Australia at the same time as in the States?
Pretty much. It was kind of different Australian television because nowadays we basically get a show around about the same time as the States, but kind of our television season used to be from like February through to about October. So I think it premiered in February 2000. So, a few months after. But it came off the back of, because ER was obviously still extremely popular. So all the promotions were heavily around sort of the connections to ER. And ER was like that first grown-up show I was allowed to watch. So I straight away fell into Third Watch and just loved it more than ER, and 20 years later I still classify it as my favourite show of all time. So Yeah,
Wow,
that's how it works.
and so you were literally 12 when it started and 18 when it ended.
Yes, I was.
That's amazing.
The thing is, too, which was interesting, because we actually had a question asked to us by one of the listeners sort of asking why we're doing this. They're like, was Third Watch like this huge hit in Australia that it wasn't in the States? And I kind of had to explain that it got screwed around even more in Australia than I think it did in the States with air times. Like, I don't think we actually got the finale until like 2008, 2009 or something, because they just shafted it so much. But I had a friend who at the time had broadband fast internet, and I still had the crappy dial-up, so I couldn't do things like download shows and all that sort of stuff. So she had downloaded, not that we did that illegally, shut up, don't tell on me, the finale of Third Watch so I could watch it. And of course I hadn't seen season 5 or season 6 at that point, so a lot of it was lost on me. But I just wanted to see how it ended and everything like that. So that's kind of how all that played out. And I'll just go through the fact.
We had 7 different time slots in 6 years here.
That's crazy.
Is that right,
Wow.
Ed?
Yeah.
7 different time slots in 6 years.
They changed it twice one year.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Insane.
And our people always showed up, right? Our ratings were always consistent, no matter where we were.
Yeah.
Same 6 people watched it every week.
No, Skip,
And my
Skip,
family
you say
was
that,
5 of
though.
them.
So only one of you here actually
have a
watched it. The rest
grandchildren.
didn't watch it. That's kind of how it
Yeah. Well, I know Beach never did, right?
No.
Actually, our rating.
Beach, do you
Our
remember
ratings back
watching an
then-
episode with me? Do you remember seeing an episode with me, Beach? Do you remember seeing an episode with me and then look at me and said, "Hey, this show's pretty good"? I'm like, "You've never seen it?" We said, "No, I've never watched one."
Oh my God.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
Just
I watched it every week. I watched it.
Do you pick up much on when you're
Yeah, we
watching
watch it
something
every
that you didn't see the first time? Like, obviously, you're not seeing maybe some of the scenes that are being filmed, but even on your own performance, do you kind of watch an episode and pick up on something a little bit extra that you haven't through reading the script and filming everything?
Well, I don't know how the other guys feel, but one of the things I learned about on-camera acting during Third Watch was that, and one of the reasons I watched it every week was when I was watching the show, and I would go in and out of feeling like I was watching myself and I was watching the character. That's kind of how I taught myself how to concentrate better on set, on what to concentrate on, because what I was aiming at all the time was to be so in what was happening on set that when I watched it, I didn't see myself. I know that sounds a little weird. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about, but there are times when you're locked on camera in such a way and concentrating in such a way as the character that when I watch myself, I literally don't see myself because I don't see myself acting. You know what I mean? But it's it comes and goes. You click in and out of it. Like there'll be a scene where it's really there and it's awesome. I know Beach is going to fucking tell me, no, I don't know what you're talking about, dude. I'm always locked in. But and then there'll be times when I can see that I'm kind of distracted or wasn't quite on it, whatever. We were always aiming at that, obviously. But that was one of the reasons I watched it, and that lesson was taught me by Stellan Skarsgrd, now very very famous Stellan Skarsgrd, who when I did Ronin with Stellan, which was 2 years before we shot the pilot of Third Watch. I never watched myself on camera. All the little small parts I'd had and stuff. I never watched my shit. And Stellan said, "No. You have to watch your work because it's the only way to make your work be better." And he's the one who told, really said, "Don't ever do that anymore. Anytime you're lucky enough to work on camera, watch your work and learn from it."
Wow.
And so
maybe that's why my work's never gotten better.
But I got a lot better from watching Beach's work. I mean, watching Beach's work really made me better.
Beach may be a better writer.
I probably
Sure.
peaked about 30 years ago. And I used to watch it, but I haven't watched it in years, decades, really.
Well, but yeah, you're Mike Tight.
You're Mike Beach. You're Mike.
Yeah.
Mikey Tight.
And I mean, let's be honest, you hit your ceiling a long time ago, so there's really nowhere to go.
Isn't that what I just said?
Lisa
He definitely made me a better writer.
That's right.
I still, it's funny. He said something to me in the first season. There was a scene, there's an episode where the ambulance crashes into a car, where Anthony's driving and they crash into a car, and a woman's baby dies. And at the end of the episode, there's the woman meets him in the hallway and asks him if the baby felt any pain. And the episode was written by a doctor, by Lance Gentile, who was an actual emergency room doctor. And he wrote this whole page of dialogue about how the nervous system's not developed at that point and all this stuff. And Beach says, I'm not saying this. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, I'm not saying this. And I said, well, what do you want to say? And he looked at it and he goes, no. I'm just going to say no. Does the baby feel pain? And then he said to me, he goes, Ed, a line don't have to be long to be good. And I actually had that written on I had it printed and written, hung on my computer for the rest. I still have it on my computer, that a line don't have to be long to be good.
Wow.
That's really true. And that was my way of getting out of learning a long-ass line.
But it was great advice.
And little known story, that's the same baby that you caught that fell out of the window.
It's all connected.
Only to have the baby.
And the real trivia thing is that baby is Shia LaBeouf. He grew up to be Shia LaBeouf.
That explains a lot.
Wow. I thought that baby looked familiar. I really did. I love these behind the scenes things. It's great. Lisa Lewis, question is for everyone here. Jump in if you want to answer this one. What did you each love most about your character?
Man.
Everyone's in deep thought here.
Yeah.
They were deep characters, man.
Yeah, the complexity. Unlike what Beach said, I liked they were written with lots of depth. I thought all the characters.
Yeah, they were real people. They were real people. It wasn't just the job. I mean, this was really, really detailed characters that Ed and the rest of the writers gave us to play. So, and then with Chris Chulak setting the tone and setting the bar so high with what he expected us to deliver. The whole thing was just you couldn't ask for more.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I mean, I don't know if I'll be able to say this without tearing up, but the first thing that came into my head when you asked that question was that because of my relationship with because of Sully's relationship with Davis, I kind of got to experience what it was like to have a son. Because that's how, he was my partner's son, my dead partner's son. And so from the very first moment when I saw him in the pilot, I said, oh my God, he looks exactly like him. The feeling I had about Coby was, he was my son and I had to keep getting killed, because Sully that was his family. Davis was his family. He didn't have anybody else until he married the whore.
Wow. I feel like Tatiana's getting shat all over here. This is, poor Savannah.
That's true. That's really true. That's what the experience was like. It's like, and then look, from the pilot to when we wrapped the show, I mean, everybody turned into different people. Everybody had, there were kids starting to be born, and you went from 12 to 18, Ben, and we went from much to sort of old to really old.
Coby went from 12 to 18 too.
He did, yes.
Exactly.
I thought there was a connection there, Coby. Like, we grew up together on this show, and other side of the world.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, basically that way.
Pretty much, yeah.
Now, Liz Dickman Rutherford said, I speak for myself and my friends Mary and Barbara when I say, more Skipp. We need to show our favourite grumpy cop some love. She would love to hear you giving a really gruff Davis for us on this episode.
On Davis?
There we go. That I think works.
But see, that's not the gruff thing. The gruff thing would. The gruff thing I would say would be Bosco. Because I remember that scene where Bosco parked my squad car in the alley between the brick walls. You know, we were messing with each other back and forth. And I remember the feeling of that, just fucking hating Jason's guts so bad when, you know, it was time for us to react to coming back to our radio car and seeing
true fact.
Bosco.
He's not here tonight because you said you didn't want to be on the same episode because you're still pissed off with him after 20 years. That's true story.
There you go.
You refuse to be on the same call with Jason Wiles. That's where he is tonight. Ralph Jenkins asked the question. He loved the random singing moments, particularly between Sully and Davis and Bad Leroy Brown and Carlos singing the Pina Colada song, and wants to know if any of you would love to give us a rendition of either of those songs.
If you like pina coladas, in the rain.
Out in the rain.
I thought you meant. If you like making love at midnight.
I don't know where Anthony went, but he was singing it the other day in the car for the kids. So.
I know Coby knows Bad Leroy Brown.
Come on, Coby.
Baddest man in the whole damn town.
Brilliant.
Better than old King Kong. Mina Davis.
Go. I was about to hit the harmony with you, brother.
Okay, here we go. Better than old King Kong. Meaner than a junkyard.
Meaner than a junkyard dog. I was there with it.
There you go.
Brilliant. Minus Ted has got a collaboration coming up there with Coby Bell. It's going to be fantastic. We want to see it happening. And a bit of an interesting one here to end on. Darvell Stewart, one of our co-hosts, hello Darvell, thanks for sending this in, asks, how do you feel about certain storylines still being as relevant today as they were when the show aired, if not more so? The examples he gives here are the racial tensions from the 4 Days episode, and then even the likes of the sexual assault allegations that were around Carlos over the course of several seasons. And we talked a lot about this during those recaps because it's scarily relevant that kind of this is still being talked about today. Ed, I might start with you kind of on that. I mean, it's interesting and somewhat sad that it's still kind of very relevant to this day.
Well, to me, they're just people, so it doesn't surprise me. I mean, the characters were written as people, as real people, so I'm not that surprised that the same things are happening. It's just the kind of things people do. I'm not that surprised that they're relevant. I think anytime you're writing a show and you try to make them as close to people as possible, it's going to have resonance to the audience.
Wasn't there some sort of school shooter thing that happened in
the season 2 finale?
Yeah, that Rodney Gillis was in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But Columbine happened during the show, though. I remember. Yeah, we were on set shooting when it happened. So.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
So yeah, that's kind of where that came from.
It may have happened during the pilot when we were shooting the pilot.
Was it?
Columbine.
Really early on. It was really early on.
It seems to me I was standing with Brooke, and I don't remember Brooke that much on the pilot. I mean, I'm sure she was there, but she was in the office a lot.
I don't remember.
I don't know.
Interesting. Great question there, Darvell. The final one I might end this one. This is a deep but philosophical, I can't even speak properly, question. Delnza Watt asks, what is one thing you would like to go back and tell yourself 20 years ago while filming Third Watch? There's a big, deep question to end this on. That actually comes from Erica, sorry. I've read the wrong name there. I'm going to start with you, Skipp. Is there something you would like to go back and tell yourself 20 years ago when you were filming Third Watch?
Fly to L.A., hold Eddie hostage, and don't let him leave the show so we would still be on now.
Great answer. It's all Eddie's fault. You know, we met Leanne Rimes and bloody hell, what happened?
No, that was not what I was saying. That's not what I meant to say. By the way, Columbine happened on April 20th, 1999. So it was
Right after pilot.
Right when we were shooting.
No, it was while we were shooting. I know that.
Oh yeah, it was in the middle of shooting the pilot because we started on April 11th or something, or April 10th.
Wow.
Yeah, right in the middle.
There you go.
So anyway, I just wouldn't have had it stop. That's all. Every time I see Mariska Hargitay on yet another season of Special Victims Unit, I think, oh my God, I would it were true.
Well, at least Kim Raver's bad and it popped onto Grey's Anatomy, which never seems to end as well. So, at least she kind of eventually kept going with that, right? So you all got a role in Grey's Anatomy, perhaps. Please don't go on Grey's Anatomy. I hate that show. I'm sorry, but just
so many people out there. Grey's Anatomy, Ben. Even people in Nova Scotia.
ER's up here. Grey's Anatomy's down there. Come on, Bill. What would you tell yourself 20 years ago?
Savor every moment of it because you never know when it's going to end. I just never knew when the next time to be there. So enjoy every minute.
Coby?
I would say enjoy those carbs while you can still eat them, Coby, because one day your metabolism will retire.
Sound advice. I like that. Yeah. Anthony, I don't know. Is Anthony back? Is Anthony with us still? No, we still lost Anthony.
I think
Yvonne, what have you
on
done?
The call. We're just not hearing it.
Right. Anthony, we believe you're there, and I'm glad you're giving great answers, but I don't think we can actually hear you. So we'll see if we can hear you in a sec.
I'll answer for him.
Go for it.
I think he would have. He probably would have said, show much more respect and love to Michael Beach.
Yeah. Yes, that's true.
Yeah, that's what he would have said. Yeah.
That works. Michael and Yvonne, same question.
I don't know. I think I made the most of it. I enjoyed every moment. I really did. I wish it lasted longer.
Ed kept telling me when we were there, he kept saying, Beach, gotta buy a place. Beach, buy a place. It's gonna run. And but every year we never knew if we were coming back. Every single year. Yeah, so I was like, I'm not gonna buy a place because I just don't know. And so I would have I'd tell myself, buy a place, listen to Ed.
I think
I bought a place in LA, but not another place in
New
LA,
York.
but not a place in New York.
You wish you bought a place in New York.
Yeah.
I think Anthony wishes he had directed. He would have liked to have directed. I know Skipp directed.
Yeah, Skipp. Would you think you would have wanted to jump into that sooner?
Well, I was trying to jump into it sooner, and I do correct. Tell me if I'm wrong, Ed, but for 9/11, I think I might have been able to direct before the fourth season. But 9/11 changed the chemistry of it because I had to sort of go to this sort of unofficial film school in John Wells's company to teach myself the things that I wasn't able to get just from being an actor. But yeah, I mean, I think they gave me an episode to direct as soon as I had sort of earned the respect of the executive producers to the point where they thought I could succeed. Because that was the very first thing that they said to me when I told them I really wanted to direct. And this was when we got picked up for the Back Nine the first season. They said, you got to prove yourself by doing all this other work. And if you're going to do this job, we want you to succeed. We don't want you to just, sort of kind of direct. We want you to, we want it to really work. So I worked really hard to make that happen. And I was just glad to get the opportunity to do it those last 3 years. It was
Those were 100% Chulek's decisions. The directors were I stayed away. I let him handle that part of it. So.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. It was great. And I wish I had more respect to Bobby Cannavale.
Yeah.
Because he's had such a tough time, since Third Watch.
I apologize to him every time I see him. Yeah.
Don't see him in anything. I wonder what happened to him.
Yeah.
I wonder whatever happened to him.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think it was something like it kind of looked like this sometimes.
He shines his Emmy with his hair like that. I guess I'll close it out by kind of just putting
I don't understand why you don't love me anymore. I don't understand why you don't love me anymore.
The open question to everyone here, the legacy of Third Watch 20 years on. What do you believe the legacy is of this show after it ended, and the history that it has with television and audiences out there?
Best cop show ever. Best show ever.
It was one of the last cop shows that it was just about cops didn't have to be psychics. They didn't have to be. There were cops and something else. It was one of the last show where they were just actually about cops. And I think one of the legacies is almost everything on television now is some version of Third Watch, but in a smaller version of it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I don't
Dick
know
Wolf,
if,
Third Watch into 5 shows.
The history, but I don't know if there was if there were a lot of shows or any shows that combined all of the the paramedics, firefighters, and cops. But I know afterward there seemed to be a ton of shows that combined what they call the first responders. But prior to that, it seemed like there were only firefighter shows or cop shows separately,
Yep.
That's why Ed's waiting for all these royalty checks from NBC to come through for Chicago PD and cops and all these other
Dick's not going to get off his wallet anytime soon.
it's a bit that way. Guys, I got to say, this has been an absolute pleasure to be able to have you all on the line here and to reminisce of all these memories. We could be here for 20 hours, but I think we've covered a great deal. I'm going to go around the room and thank each of you personally. First of all, Ed, what a pleasure it is always have you on the show, of course, and we're going to get you back on, as we said, I think a couple months ago, every week, basically. You can tell us a new story every single week once you're a little bit more ready to deal with us again. But it's always a pleasure having you on here, mate, and thanks for your time.
And I can't tell you how much I appreciate what you do, for continuing to keep this show alive the way you do, and it's very gratifying that you're doing what you're doing. And I just, like, during this thing, you realize how much I miss all the people that I did that show with, and I love all you guys very much, and I hope we see each other soon.
It's a pleasure to be able to do this. To be able to do this, you're making my inner 12-year-old very happy by being here. Skipp, I'll go to you as well. Obviously, a pleasure to have you on for the very first time. I'm going to say this to you and Coby and Bill as I close this off, that you're very much welcome to come on here and we can do a longer interview, talk a little bit more specifically about sort of your characters and everything along those lines, like we've done with everyone else on this show as well. But Skipp, pleasure to have you on here, mate, and thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure, and I want to echo what Eddie said, Ben. Thank you so much for putting this together, and for all that you do to keep the show's legacy what it is, and to keep it alive, and to help to give us this opportunity to see and hear each other here 20 years to the night after we started telling these stories to the world. Thank you very much, and I love you guys. I love all of you.
My pleasure.
Love
and Coby, same to you.
Love you guys.
Coby, thank you, and again, invitation as well for you to come back on here and chat a little bit more. But pleasure to chat with you for the very first time, mate. Thanks for your time.
Oh, anytime, man. This has been so much fun. So many great memories just flooding through my head, and yeah, and kind of what Ed was saying. Like, it really means a lot to me to be able to speak with someone like you, who the show meant so much to, because at the end of the day, that's why we do it. That's why we make these shows is to entertain people like you. So thank you so much. I can't thank you enough, man. It means a lot.
Anthony, I don't know if Anthony's still there. You can hear us. I know you can hear us, Anthony. Thank you. I had the pleasure of chatting to you many years ago on one of my other shows that I did a long time ago, and we replayed that here on the Oz Network a few years ago. So, Anthony, thank you. Yvonne, you can make sure you pass that on if he can. He's there.
Yeah,
Yvonne, thank you.
Yes. And thank you on Anthony's behalf.
Yes. Yvonne, thank you very much again.
And Anthony would want to say that he loves Michael Beach very much.
And everything he knows he learned from Michael Beach.
Yvonne, thank you. Michael as well. I had the pleasure of chatting to you many years ago on one of my other shows as well. So obviously to have you back on here and chat again is fantastic. Michael, Skipp mentioned about Bobby going on to great things. I mean, Michael, God, you're a very busy man as well. So, all the best with everything that you're doing as well. You're doing great out there.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
you're most
Yeah,
welcome.
it's just so great seeing you and all these things, man. It's really great.
And Bill as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, man.
Thank you, Ed.
And Bill, as a pleasure as well, and the invitation for yourself as well to come back on. There's always open invitation to anyone. You're bored on a Saturday night, just shoot me a message. You've got that. But we thank everyone for tuning in as well. Thanks for tuning in here to this very special Third Watch 20th anniversary special here on the Oz Network. And we look forward to bringing you some more great Third Watch coverage coming your way in the remaining months of 2019. And I'm just going to come in and talk again because you heard me concluding that, and I'm going to be back here right now to conclude it proper. What a fun time that was, and just beyond amazing that they were all able to give their time and chat and reminisce about the good old days of Third Watch in this only reunion that I believe is happening. So great honour to be able to have it on our show here on the Oz Network, and definitely an honour to have every single one of those people appear on this show. So from the bottom of my heart, once again, Coby, Skipp, Anthony, Michael, Bill, Yvonne, and Ed, all big thank yous going to all of those ones, as well as I'm going to send a thanks to Jason, Amy, and Guy as well for at least conversing with me and arranging some other things happening in the future that just unfortunately weren't being able to be part of this episode. So lots of memories being shared there, lots of fun stories, fun times, and I know that I personally will love that the rest of my life. Love being able to do that. So I'm gushing still. What can I say? And if you're listening to this as well, we have released on the same day here as well a separate episode just featuring myself and a couple of fans of Third Watch. I thought we'd get the fan perspective. Obviously, Darvell and Brandy being involved in that one, as well as some other ones as well. So just reminiscing about being fans of Third Watch, what we think about it all these years later, and everything else in between. So make sure you listen to that one as well to get the fan perspective of the 20-year anniversary of Third Watch. Lots of big anniversaries happening for television shows this year, of course. A lot of people celebrating 25 years of Friends this year. We also posted the other day about it being 25 years since ER premiered. So plenty of shows out there that are getting that love as you celebrate anniversaries. So good to be nostalgic every now and then. And as I just mentioned at the end of the reunion there, we've got plenty of Third Watch coverage still to come. Of course, we're in the depths of the sixth and final season of our recap series. You'll hear that every Wednesday between now and basically the end of the year. So we will have all of those coming out. Then, of course, we'll have the season 6 recap followed by our series recap. And then we will do, similar to what we did with Nip Tuck, we'll release an article ranking every single episode of Third Watch, so that is also to come as well. So between now and the end of the year, still got 3 solid months of some good Third Watch coverage coming your way. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, a few other interviews too. Very hopeful that Jason will be on in the coming days, as well as Amy coming back for a bit of an appearance to celebrate 20 years. And we'll try to get, as we also said in that chat as well, Coby, Skipp, and Bill on for some extended interviews as well. So plenty still to come with the Third Watch coverage as we do get closer and closer to the end of the series, at least when it comes to our recap episodes. And outside of Third Watch, just a slight little teaser for those who may be listening to our show for the very, very first time. Of course, mentioning that we've got all those recap episodes coming for the rest of the year, we do have 5.5 seasons worth of recap episodes as well. Going back to the very first episode, we have recapped every episode until the midway point of season 6, as I just mentioned. So if you do head to the oznetwork.net, you click on the TV section, you'll see the drop-down menu that will come down. You'll see the words Third Watch. You'll be able to find all our previous recap episodes there. And you can also find all our interviews that we have done. We have done full-length interviews with the likes of Yvonne, with the likes of Ed, Guy Norman B as well, Manny Perez, I believe is the only sort of police side of things we have ever had on the show before Skipp and Coby tonight. Also interviews we've done in the past with Amy Carson, Kim Raver as well. So plenty of ones there. And classic interviews, you would have heard me mention there that I had spoken to Michael Beach and Anthony Ruivivar a long time ago on my former show, well, still current show, but former show when I was still on radio, I should say, The Brink back in Australia. So we did share those interviews to listen to, just so you can hear those back several years ago now. So they're all on there. But the easiest way, as I said, the oznetwork.net, that's where all that is on there. So if you, as I said, new to this show, you didn't realise the extent of coverage we have done, by all means go back and listen to them, and we'd love to hear from you along the way as well. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to all of our channels on YouTube as well. Also, podcasts, wherever good podcasts are downloadable, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and leave us some feedback. We'd love to hear what you think of the show. And outside of Third Watch, we do plenty of other coverage. Mondays, we have Lost episodes. We're recapping the show Lost. We have previously covered all of Nip Tuck, if you're a fan of Nip Tuck, so plenty of Nip Tuck episodes. The whole series has been covered, as well as interviews with former cast members there as well. And, of course, Survivor, still a very prominent part of our show. It's our roots. We started way back in the day as Survivor Oz for new listeners, so plenty of coverage coming from both the US and the Australian version. The US version starting this week, so we'll be back to covering that as well. And, of course, movie recaps as well. We're doing our Terminator series starting this week. We're starting with the very first Terminator movie in the lead up to Terminator Dark Fate. We've got Star Wars movies coming up in the lead up to the Rise of Skywalker, and other movies that we've covered all over the years. So much to get to, so many things for you to keep you occupied. Essentially an episode every single day, so if you subscribe to our feed, you will always be kept busy and hopefully find something that entertains you as much as Third Watch hopefully has entertained you as well. So there you go. But at the end of the day, I would like to once more say a big thank you to every single one of the people who appeared on this show: Coby, Skipp, Anthony, Michael, Bill, Yvonne, and Ed. And thank you to the listener for tuning into this today as well. It was an honor to be able to bring you this exclusive Third Watch recap episode, a reunion episode celebrating the 20th anniversary of the day the show premiered. My name has been Ben. Thanks for tuning into the Oz Network, and we'll speak to you next time. Good night.
Thank you for listening to the Oz Network. Don't forget to subscribe to get new episodes delivered to your speakers every week. For more information, hit us up at theoznetwork.net.